Hi everybody out there. I'm Tab, in case we haven't met yet. So welcome to Art Journaling. Thank you for being here. We are going to go through 8 good for the soul single page art journal designs that I have come up with that will hopefully bring some kind of peace and serenity to your life in this crazy time that we are living right now. My little experiment called Art Journaling for the Soul. Thank you again for being here. I am super happy to be sharing these things with you, and I hope that you enjoy it.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are here for our last journal page of this 8 Art Journal for the Soul series. And so this one is going to be our New Year's resolution page where we get to kind of dump 2020 and put it behind us and focus on the new year and what's good about it. So here is the finished journal page here where we are going to do basically a cheers to new beginnings for 2021. We're going to learn how to do some acrylic blending. We're going to basically do a little bit of an art therapy exercise where we write down all that's bad about 2020 and just get rid of it. So toss it out of our minds and move on. So we're going to be able to write some New Year's resolutions and dedicate this page to a new beginning. We are upon the new year and 2020 is finally over, so I think that it is important for us to go ahead and write down all of the things that really sucked about 2020 and get it all out on paper. And so I'm gonna just go with my bold Sharpie here, and I'm gonna say why 2020 sucked. Okay, so I'm just going to make my list of the reasons why I think 2020 sucked, and then we're going to do a little art journal with using and maybe even purging these thoughts from our minds so that we can move on. So I'm just going to make my list, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so there's my list of why 2020 sucks. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tear this page out, and I'm going to use it on my fresh journal page. So I'm going to open up a fresh page here, and I am going to take my list and I am going to say, I'm done with you. I'm done with you, 2020. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue it as a collage onto my background. Okay, so with your ugly brush and your Mod Podge, we're going to take and we're going to collage this on. So if you did it in Sharpie, you can put some upside down so they're not so dark, or you can put them all right side up. It doesn't matter. But we're just going to start to glue these onto the page. So again, we're going to start with, let me get that out of the way here. We're going to start with some glue on the page, and I'm going to slap this down. I'm going to paste over. Glue on the page. I might flip a couple of these over just because I want it to be a little bit different.
you don't have to cover every square inch. It's okay that paper is showing through. Things can be upside down. It does not matter. We're going to paint over this anyways. So, okay, we're just going to make sure everything's sealed in. Any wrinkles, just press them out with your finger or your brush. Flatten things out as they try to wrinkle on you. So once it's dry, we're gonna do, I guess, a little bit of acrylic background, and I think that it is okay if your collage gets covered up completely. If you can't even read these words anymore, that's okay, because we are putting this behind us. So we're moving on. So what you'll want to do is get some white and whatever color you'd like your background to be. So I'm going to use like a dark blue and a light blue, but if you only have one color, we can just do this in varying shades of your one color. So basically it's just adding white to your color, you know, to have like a fade. So we're going to do a quick blending tutorial in acrylics. So what you'll want is a flat brush, a square brush, and so we're going to do a bit of a blend from the bottom to the top. So how do you do that with acrylic? At the top I'm going to start with my pure darkest color. So if you do have, so right now I have a dark blue, a light blue, and a white. So if you only have one color and white, you're just going to, you know, kind of add a little bit of white to your color as you move down. So we're just going to go a fade from dark to light, or darkish to lightish, I guess, at the bottom. And so I'm going to go ahead and move my brush across the top, and I use this kind of almost like an X kind of shape, I guess, as I'm blending across the top. Now you'll notice that where there is Mod Podge, it might be sliding around a little bit, but that's okay. It is going to be a little bit more slick right where that stuff is. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep this nice and dark at the top. And when I transition, I'm going to grab some of that paint on my brush, and I'm going to just go ahead and apply it and bring it a little bit up into that dark paint, and I'm going to start bringing it up and down until it kind of blends in. So if you need to go back into your dark color, you would blend down into your light color and then back up. Blend down into your light color and back up. So it's basically your brush movements are staying the same, but you're kind of like, you know, moving up and down to blend it back and forth, up and down to from the top to the bottom. So as you transition, you can get a little bit, you know, we're just going to keep moving up to the top to bring some of that color down. And acrylic dries really, really fast, so you kind of have to work quickly, and sometimes you might even have to add a little water to your brush. But as I get into that light area, I'm going to bring that white into my blend here, and I'm just going to bring it up into my light blue and down, up and down, up. And I'm going to end with something fairly light at the bottom, if you can. Okay, so now we're going to take a round brush and white paint only. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and grab a brush full of white paint, and then you can create your birch trees however you want, but my main thing is try to create some kind of irregularity with them. So they're not all going to be the same width, they're not all going to have the same spacing.
So try to mix it up as much as you can. So some will be really wide and some will be very thin. Okay, and then some might have, you know, little branches coming off of them, you know, at some point. And we know how to do that already because we've practiced with trees, right? So however you want to tackle these birch trees, and again, you can stick with the same rule of them being thicker at the bottom than they are at the top. So that's always a good rule to follow with any tree that you're making. Okay, so whatever kind of little birch tree forest you come up with is going to be perfect. Okay, so as I was blow drying my trees, I was thinking, ooh, it's wintertime, we should make some snow. So I am going to rinse out my flat brush just because it's nice and big and it'll hold a lot of paint. And so I'm just going to show you guys how I would do some spatter painting, and we'll make some snow happen here. So I'm going to take my white paint and I'm going to just kind of pull some to the side, and I'm going to wet that down until it's, I mean, my rule of thumb is basically if you start doing and scrubbing your paint with a little water in it, once you start to see bubbles form, that's when it's going to be thin enough to actually spatter. So you'd want to have an additional something, another paintbrush or something to, you know, tap your loaded brush onto. And so what you'd want to do is, first of all, make sure that you don't have a lot of water in it on the handle to spatter everywhere. That's not cool. And then once it's wet enough, it should release from your brush and it'll bounce up, so be careful and watch where it goes because it might accidentally spatter up into your face at times. So that happens a lot. So you can kind of control how much is released from your brush and where it goes after you get a little practice. Okay, so now that if all of your snow is dry, we're ready to move on and actually get these to look like birch trees. So you are going to want to find something that you can scrape with, whether it's like an old gift card or you know, like a hotel key card or something like that. And then you can put some either dark brown or black on your plate. I'm going to go with brown just because I think my lettering might go over some of my trees in the end, so I'm just going to kind of plan for that. So I'm basically just going to start off with, you know, grabbing a little bit of that brown on the edge of my card here, and I'm just going to pick a side. So I'm right-handed, so I think all my brown scrapes are going to be on the left side because it's easier as for a right-handed person. But if you are left-handed, you can make all of your brown scrapes on the right side of the tree, so you could do the opposite of what I'm doing. It'll just be easier for you to make those marks. So you're going to basically just take this, you know, card, and you're just going to just touch it to the one side of your tree and just kind of, you know, scrape it inwards a little bit, and it will create a natural kind of birch tree marking. And so you can do this on all of your little branches, and it does not take a lot of paint. You're basically just going to dip the very tip of your card into that paint and just touch it to the side of to the left or right side of your tree, and just scrape it into that tree just a little bit. And then what I want to do is I just want to give a little bit of shadow on the other side. So I'm going to mix up the lightest of light blues, something around this shade here, and I'm going to come in on the other side just like half as much as what we see here. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe off my card with a baby wipe. Okay, get it nice and clean. I'm going to dry these birch trees because I don't want to accidentally scrape my brown. Okay, so on my plate, I'm going to use my, well, any brush really, to mix a light blue color, or whatever color you used in your sky. If you went with a purple sky or a green sky, you can be as crazy as you want with this, but if you went with a different color than blue, then you can just mix a very light color of that just by mixing some of your color into some white. And then I'm going to use that as almost a shadow on the opposite side of the brown. So again, I'm going to just grab a little bit of it on the tip of my card, and since, you know, this move is a little bit more difficult, there's going to be a lot less of it, so I'm just going to move in from my right side now. Okay, so first I want to make sure that I do put the fact that we are focusing on the year 2021 at this point. So I'm going to probably paint the year 2021 in here. And I'm just going to say, you know, I do want this to be kind of a New Year's resolution. So I'm probably going to say something like, you know, cheers to new beginnings, because that's what the birch trees represent. So I'm just going to make sure it fits in here with pencil. And then you can choose to do this in Sharpie or in paint or whatever you prefer. I probably will just do Sharpie to make it simple. But I might paint the numbers in just because they're bigger and it's easier to paint if it's bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and... Okay, so I'm going to have to obviously darken this up and thicken it up a lot to make you see it. Here is, I've talked about this a little bit, but red tends to be very transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of white in with my red first to make kind of a dark pink color. And this is just with the white in it, it helps block out background. And then once that's dry, I'll go over it with pure red so it's nice and bright. A little bit while I work on my pure red. You can do this in any color that you want. And then we're going to outline everything in white. If you have a gel pen, it's going to come in very handy here. I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to outline my saying at the top. That's going to help it stand out a little bit. I'm going to probably outline my numbers as well. And then up each tree, I'm going to go ahead and write my New Year's resolutions. So here goes.
Yeah.